What I'll talk about this week is we are a spirit-filled church. We're a spirit-filled church. Now, if you spent any time in church world at all, that little phrase might come with all kinds of baggage in your heart and in your mind. When you think spirit-filled, you may be thinking really weird churches. When you think spirit-filled, you may be thinking really wild churches. But I actually believe that what Jesus had in mind when he talked about being a spirit-filled church is that it would be a wonderful church. And I want to help unpack what exactly that is and what that can actually look like in our context. So I'm going to break it up into kind of two movements of how the Holy Spirit tends to work in our lives, both individually and corporately. So the first movement is the indwelling. Okay, the indwelling, which you could remember through this little phrase, the Spirit in us. When you say yes to Jesus, when you invite His lordship into your life, what you're also doing is you're inviting the Spirit of God to come and live inside of you and to dwell inside of you. Suzanne Calhoun, who's a theologian, says it this way: the indwelling of the Holy Spirit is one of the gifts of salvation by which God's very presence in the person of the Spirit indwells the church corporately and Christians individually. And this is the kicker: drawing them into the life of the triune God. When you say yes to Jesus and the Holy Spirit takes up residence in your life, He draws you into the life of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. But I want to distinguish this from something else called the infilling. The infilling, a spirit-filled church, is the Spirit upon us. You become a child of God when the Holy Spirit comes in you. You receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And then he said, and then you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, and to the ends of the earth. Meaning, I'm going to give you power to be a blessing to the world around you. I'm going to give you power to serve others. I'm going to give you power to minister to others. The way Pastor Les has said this for years is the Holy Spirit comes in us for us. He comes upon us for others. When the Spirit of God falls on us, it moves us out of our fear, out of our self-focus, out of our own insecurities, and it moves us into the lives of the world around us for the good of others. To be able to minister, in the words of Jesus, in power or in authority. To me, one way to describe this is kind of like a phone, okay? Kind of like your cell phone, your iPhone or whatever it is you carry around. Like if you've ever put it in airplane mode, taking it off of Wi-Fi and the cell network, though most people don't do that anymore, you still are told to do it every time you get on a plane. I never do. I'm just gonna confess, I just let it kind of lose all its bars. And so I don't know if FFA is going to come and get me for that, but I just I don't do the airplane mode thing anymore. I just know we're going to be okay. And if my phone takes us down, we need better technology than that, I assume. So, but when you're up there, right, or when you put it in airplane mode, your phone has particular capabilities, but it's pretty limited, right? You can check certain things if you've downloaded them. You can read certain things or listen to certain things if you've already downloaded them. But it cannot access any new information. It really isn't really living up to its potential as a phone. It's just kind of existing as a fancy calculator and database in your hand. And then you land, right? You touch down and you get back into cell range. And all of a sudden your notifications start blowing up and your text messages come in and your phone calls and your emails come in and your news feed updates and the weather updates. And there's all this new information, and this tool now has all these new capabilities. This is how I understand the work of the Spirit in our lives when it comes to indwelling and then infilling. Because when the Spirit is dwelling in us, when we say yes to Jesus, He lives in us, and there are certain capacities, right? We have access to God now on a whole new level. But when the Spirit of God fills us on a whole new way with power, it's like accessing that cell network. It's the authority and the fullness of what Jesus intended for you is now at work in your life. But I know this, that in order for us to be who God's called us to be and do what God's called us to be, we got to have the Spirit of God. I have no interest in leading a church that is all about our own power, smarts, or strategy. We'll have a level of effectiveness that'll look really good on the outside, but we'll have no depth on the inside. But what I'd much rather do And what I'm only up for doing is to lead a church where we say, God, we got nothing to offer the world if we don't have you.